How much power do you think a little chick has? You know, a little baby chicken that's only a few days old. And how is that all related to your mind? Well, that's what we'll get into today. So welcome as we get real with Yvonne. So today we're talking about an experiment that was conducted by a French researcher. So I'm going to tell you the story about that study he did, which is actually so fascinating. So you should definitely stay tuned. It's about baby chickens, right? Little cute chicks, only a few days old. And what we know from the animal world in general, but also from that study he did, is that like chicks, little chicks, once they leave the egg, right, they're like born and they come out into the world from their egg. The first thing they see, they're gonna identify that thing as their mom, right? They're gonna think, okay, that's my provider. Is it be my dad, my uncle, my mom, or my brother, whatever it is, the first thing I see moving, I'm just gonna stick to that. I'm just gonna expect that thing to provide food for me, to feed me, to give me shelter, to just basically look out for me and be my parent, right? So that's what we know about chicks, or that's what they knew conducting the study. They knew about the chicks. So now they work with that knowing, with that fact, right? And they conducted the study in order to prove something. And we are speaking about power. We're speaking about how powerful a little chick is, or your mind is. So stay tuned and stay with me as we make that connection. So we can imagine that a little chick is not very powerful when it comes to lifting weights, right? Or it should lift its cage up on its head. It's probably not going to be possible. So we're not talking about physical strength. However, what we're talking about, as you can see by the title of this video, we're talking about the power of the mind. And that's one of my favorite subjects that I love to get into and I love to read about and go deeper, how powerful our mind is. And so in this study where the chicks identified a little robot as their mom, that's actually what they did. They programmed a robot to just randomly move around and basically have no clear intention of what he was doing. So I'm going to call that AI because it is AI, right? It's programmed to behave in a certain randomly humanistic way, which is like, hey, it doesn't have a plan, it doesn't have a clear intention of doing things. It's just randomly behaving as humanly as possible, right? As humanly, animally, in this case, as possible. So what happened was that the little chicks followed the robot around, right? Because they wanted it to be their mom. They wanted to be fed, even though the robot didn't really feed them. But since it was the first object moving they saw, as I said before, they thought it was their mom. They thought that's where their shelter and food and whatever they needed to grow up and become healthy, happy, mature little chicken, that's where that stemmed from. So they followed the robot around. What then happened is the actual experiment, because they separated the little chicks from the robot. They put it in a separate cage, like one chick at a time, put it in a separate cage, and right next to the cage where the robot was still moving around randomly. So we're going to show you the visual on that, right? Like what happened, what you see the robot doing, because the robot was had a pen with it and drew on white paper, drew the way he was doing, right? Like its little parkour was like written down on white paper by the pen attached to the robot. So we could see that, or as we can see in the visual that I'm putting into this video, that the robot moved completely randomly, and the chick was then put next to him. And since the chick thought it was its mom, it missed the robot, right? It wanted it to be as close to the chick as possible. So what happened every time the researcher did his trial, like his study, his experiment, was that as the chicken, like once there was one chicken, there were several chicken, as the chicken were longing for the AI tool, which is a robot in this case, to be closer because they thought it was their mom, They were longing for it. They were incapable of joining it. They were incapable of being physically closer than they already were in that separate cage, yet they were longing for it to be closer. What happened was the robot, so AI, changed its path. And we're going to insert that visual also so you can see what then happened. The chick's mind and thoughts of missing the robot, of wanting it to be closer, of loving the robot, right? It's also a testimonial of the power of love. We're drawing the robot closer. So we can say that the chick's mind influenced the robot's behavior. It influenced because, and how is that? How can we explain that? And how is it all related to your mind? Well, everything I'm telling you today, of course, I'm indirectly speaking about your mind, about the power of your mind, and that thoughts are not just thoughts, they're actually things. And Neville Goddard is saying that, right? Thoughts are things. And you can imagine a thing as a deed, as you lifting something with your hand, like you lifting a pen is a deed, is a action. So imagine your thought also being this sort of action. It's a action taking place. It's not just a daydreaming a movement. It's not just a daydreaming state of being where you're just like having thoughts. Of course, there's different levels to it, right? If you equip your thoughts with emotions and you repeat your thoughts on a daily basis, that's going to be so and so much more powerful. But just as a basis of all of this, you can be assured that your thoughts actually create things. They actually do things. So in this example, the chicks drew the robot closer, even though I'm sure almost everyone I had asked before they heard this video or knew about this experiment, if I asked them, what do you think the robot's behavior will be once we separate it from the chicks? How will that change? I'm pretty sure everyone would have said, well, it doesn't change at all. It's a robot, right? It's AI. It doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have an intention on its own. It's programmed to do a thing. It doesn't have a consciousness, right? Like AI doesn't have a consciousness either. They're just trained to do something. They're trained to provide what they have sort of learned, even though the term learning is not adequate for AI, but we're not going to get into that right now. But it's not a learning, it's more like an assembling facts and assembling data to then output it, right, at a certain moment. But this shows that this like random program behavior of the robot is influenced by a chick's thought. So that shows us that the chick's mind is powerful and that we all create our reality. The chick created a reality where it drew the robot closer with the pure thought of it wanting it to be closer and it not thinking about, oh, is this a wish? And am I expressing a wish? Is it like phrased in a positive way, right? Like how people in the manifesting world, they have these little rules, what you shouldn't think or how you should think it, how you should phrase stuff. And again, I'm not going to get into it, these detail in this video, but it wasn't overthinking. It didn't have a meta level of thinking, how do I think and what thought am I having? And is that a useful thought to have? It was basically just having the thought and longing so much and so powerfully for that device to be closer that it drew it in. What also another part of the study was that the same thing was done with rabbits. So rabbits were in the place of the chick this time. Rabbits were first sort of they had them get used to the robot as their mom, sort of, then were separated. And what happened then, the rabbits were actually afraid of the robot because they're like, what's that thing? Do you think we're stupid over here? We're not going to think that's our mom, right? Like, first of all, where's the ears? No ears, so it's a random robot, right? Maybe we're going to insert an image here. It's a random robot, just like a simple, it looks like this mic a little bit, the robot they used. So it's not like it's not made to be, it's not made to look like a rabbit or a chick at all. It's just like a device, basically. So the rabbits were like, yeah, you can fool the chicks, but not really us. We know that this is not at all our mom. We're not going to get any food from this thing. So leave us alone. So they were scared of it. What that then had as an influence is that the robot moved further away from them. Like, I'm not saying in general it still came close, but when you observe like the overall way and path it was drawing on the white paper, it moved further away from the rabbits. And that's also by the power of their thoughts, right? They were like, stay away, stay away, stay away. And since this video is about you creating your reality, and please don't scream and shout and go like, oh my gosh, I'm not responsible for all the bad things happening in my life. This is typical manifesting talk. You know, I have no power in my life, like I shouldn't do. Okay, I hear you, but we're just speaking on a general basis about how your mind is super, super powerful. And of course, there's many elements having to come together for your manifestation, or you wanting to attract or avoid something is actually then successful. But this, again, this experiment shows that the reality you create for yourself is done also with thoughts. Also, thoughts become then words, right? So watch out what you say. If you keep on saying, I'm broke, I'm broke, I'm broke, you're going to be broke, right? Because you keep on manifesting exactly that reality. So the power of the mind of a chick is tiny compared to your mind, right? Your brain is so much bigger, and the real mind a human has and a living being has is actually the heart. So whatever you carry in your heart, you can attract. Whatever you're not afraid of not having, where you don't overthink and you don't not believe you being delusional in a certain way, where you wish for something and you're just like, I know I have it. I don't know how. I'm not sure how I'm going to get there, but I know I have it. It has to happen in your reality, because you can only create in your reality. So the chick was not worried about the robot's reality. It was not worried about its neighbor's reality. It was not even thinking about its own reality. It was just longing, loving and longing, and that drew the thing closer. So you don't want to be in a state of lack like the chick, where it was like, oh, I don't have it, I need it. But I think the chick was not overthinking, and it was simply the longing and the love just drew it in. So I wanted to share this experiment with you so you can become aware of your own power, and that you also, there's no AI creating in your reality. No AI is ever going to influence your reality if you are in charge of your thoughts and of your awareness that you are powerful and that you do create with every thought you're having. And we're all having about 70 to 80,000 thoughts a day. So we can start by having a hygiene of thoughts, by controlling what we think, not controlling in a bad way, but just like monitoring, right? Just like, do I want to think I'm a loser? Do I want to think I'm broke? Do I want to think I'm never going to get anywhere? Do I want to think that? Or would I rather change my thoughts, because now Yvonne told me, and many others too, that my thoughts are actually powerful and do draw in what I do choose for myself. So this is a bit quick guide to you doing that. Please like the video. Please share it if you feel it could be useful for someone. Please subscribe to my channel. We're sort of going in a new direction. As you can tell, everything is brand new. This feels like a beginning again. This feels like first days again in a new business, in a new venture. So I appreciate your support. Type me below what sort of videos you would want to see from me. I have a whole list, but who knows, maybe you give me another idea. So thanks for your presence, and love you so much, and talk soon. Bye, guys.